stolen coin on a boat, and the boat sank, and something like his grandson trying to raise the coin afterwards because it was so valuable, but it was underwater, it was very difficult to do.
Yeah, so there's this story here from the island of Stone Money about a group who went out to mine a coin, and the boat crashed on the way back. No one's ever seen it, but they came back with this story of how big and wonderful it was. And that's enough that everyone believes it, and they agree that it's money, even though it's on the bottom of the sea, and no one's seen it. I wish that worked then, Bob. So there's this way that people construct value and exchange it, where the actual medium of exchange can be a bit abstract and elusive. And to some extent, that's what's happening on the blockchain. We're agreeing that these cryptographic objects have value in some way, even though we often don't quite understand what they are. So as a bunch of designers, one of the ways we do things is trying to help people think through what's going on. So this is a workshop that we do called Block Exchange, which is about making a Lego version of the blockchain. It goes in a few stages. It's about exploring the value of money in a kind of workshopy context. And we start people with physical cards for resources that they want, that may or may not have value to them, and a whole bunch of Lego blocks. And they go through this exercise where if you want to swap an object, if you want to swap a card with someone, you write that transaction down with your particular stickers on the Lego block, and you put it on this piece of Lego. And everyone does that. While they're doing that, there's another bunch of people with a computer trying to solve countdown puzzles. And when they've solved their countdown puzzle, they go, right, we've got a block now. And they come and put, I should have a picture of that. They come and put another of these green flat layers on top, and that seals the block. It says that no one can go back and unpick any of those transactions that have happened. And that keeps going round and round because it's a physical analogue of the way that the blockchain works. And it starts out that people trade cards with equal value. I'll swap you 3 sheep for 3 wood. If anyone's played Settlers of Catan, that will sound a bit familiar. And then we start introducing fluctuations in the value. So now wood is worth 8 blocks, and this is worth 3 blocks, and things like that. But then the actually interesting bit is when we say, right, now trade anything you can think of. Because it's trying to decouple a sense of value from the cards that people have and think about what they actually want to do. And people come out with all sorts of stuff. They're trading their cat, they're trading a good Spanish joke. I would definitely play 2 Lego blocks for a good night's sleep. And some of this depends where you do it. This was with a bunch of designers at a design conference, and they instantly went from pens, nice physical objects, to a kiss, or a tweet, or they'll solve problems for you, or sing a song with your name. So this gives people a way to kind of think through value around things they might change using these mediums of exchange. This was a workshop where we also wanted to do some prototyping. This is kind of in the spirit of prototyping, so provocative prototypes. We go in there with unfinished software that does something, and we see what people do with it and what they want to make of it. In this case, we called it GeoCoin because it's about what happens when Bitcoin meets space and geography. Because there's all sorts of ways that geography and value are interconnected. There's certain places where just being in that place costs you money. That's Glastonbury. There's certain places where being in that place means you're not allowed to use money. That's Burning Man in the Nevada desert. So there's this relationship between value and space in that sense. Then this is the Bristol pound. This is a local currency. You can only really spend it in Bristol. It's pegged to the pound, but it's a way to ensure that transactions happen within the city, and people prefer using local suppliers. And that means that the money goes around the community rather than being siphoned out to larger corporations elsewhere. So it's an experiment in how we can change the way that people think about where the value of money exists. And so we start people with a map. This is a mobile app on the phone, and there's a few points that we put down. So you can have red zones where being there takes money away. green zones where being there, you gradually get given money, and black zones where if you wander past them, you pick up a chunk of money, like dots in Pac-Man, something like that. And then that gives us a space to think through what are the values around it, what might be behind these things. So it might be that there's a way to be donating when you hang out at the hospital. Just by being in that space, you're transferring money to them. It might be that there's a toll bridge, so it costs you to go across it. Maybe the city wants to promote a healthy lifestyle, so they say if you're hanging out in the park, we're going to incentivise that financially. Or it might be that's Albert Heijn in the middle, doing an in-store promotion. So they're using geolocated currency as a way to bring people into their shops. And then everyone runs out and they use the apps and they go and desperately try and pick up money before all the other people do. We started doing this with a database and then gradually moved to using Electrum wallets that actually communicate with the blockchain and exchange real money. At which point, a couple of things became clear. One is, the way the blockchain works, it's at least 10 minutes before your transaction shows up. So that means as you go around and your app says you've picked up these bits of money, you can't actually believe it until that's actually showed up on the blockchain and been confirmed. So we end up with confirmed and unconfirmed balances. And that's about the way that Bitcoin works. It's about the affordances of that platform. The other thing we found out pretty quickly is that if you're doing little micro-transactions, as we were, shifting 10 euro cents around here and there, the cost of transactions ends up much higher than the amount of money you're exchanging. We were using Electrum wallets, and there you pay a transaction fee. You can pay nothing and it'll happen eventually, but the more you pay, the faster your transactions happen. So to make things happen at a reasonable rate, we were burning through money just shifting it around between our wallets. So some of the things about Bitcoin being completely frictionless change when you start working at different scales. One of the things we did was get the people to make videos of what they did. Anyone up for a 2-minute video?
Blockchain City presents Handfaster. Our relationships and activities have always been managed and governed by a set of rules, norms, agreements and contracts. And these have traditionally been created, approved and enforced by third parties, governments, legal bodies, religious bodies or company bosses. What if we could set and formalise our own agreements and commitments for a certain place and time, to enable a hyper-local economic zone with its own set of specific rules that are made by us, for us to use collectively as a group? Take, for example, marriage. Marriage is a contract or agreement between two people that has existed for thousands of years. Not all marriages are for life, though. In fact, most aren't. Many cultures have fixed short-term marriage arrangements. The Shia Nikah al-Muta or the Celtic hand-fasting in pagan rituals make marriages to last 3 days, 3 years. It's entirely up to them. So what if you wanted all the practical aspects of a legal marriage, companionship, commitment, financial security, without going through all the tedious and expensive legal procedures? Short romantic holidays. What better way to initiate a love contract for a week? Seal it in the blockchain, pull together your cash, and witness it with a selfie. You can't spend any money unless you are together. And you'll get special discounts and bonuses for getting the Amsterdam mini marriage. Thus making commitments wherever you are. Updating one of the oldest contracts into mobile, temporary, digital smart contracts. Handfaster allows users to create temporary economic zones with shared accounts that can only be spent when both people are in the same place. It turns the financial commitment and security of marriage into short-term solutions for shared banking and spending.
These people jumped straight from the idea of you have money that works in certain places to, well, can we use that to make money that you can only spend when you're physically with another person? So it's allowed them to rethink the way that value and money works and comes together, and do something a bit weird and wacky and transgressive and make a nice video about it, so that we can start having these discussions about what's important about marriage. I'm going to skip the next one because I think I'm low on time. This was out on the pavilion in George Street over the festival. We turned it into a physical place where you can go and you can do a Bitcoin marriage. and it'll print you out a nice little marriage certificate. You can decide how many people you want to get married with. It doesn't distinguish. So as many people as want to can go there, all get married together, and then that gives them a pooled account that they can only spend when they're physically co-located. I'm going to go through one more project that was out in our pavilion as well. This is the Bit Barista, which we think might be the world's first fully Bitcoin-powered coffee machine. So you go there, and you can use Bitcoins to buy your coffee. That's all fine, that's well and good, been done a million times. The place it goes